Yo, what up guys? Welcome to Feedback Friday. Today we're going to be taking a look at a video shot by Walter Weber, our incredible German friend, with the 1DX Mark II Mavic Pro GoPro 16-35mm and a 35 1.4 lens on the GlideCam HD4000. This is a travel video he shot in Myanmar, and I've seen it before. It's awesome. We'll take a look and give some feedback. First off, great job with sound. Put some time and effort into making sure every clip had some, I don't know if it was the actual sound from the camera, some of it probably not. But that's super important, especially when you're not putting in any music yet, to make sure that sound is spot on. One part that was a little abrupt to me was going from this one to that one. That audio, not very good audio. It's okay not to use in-camera audio. It's okay to fake it and maybe audio from a different part of town that wasn't so loud and rambunctious, or sound design it later and bring in some sound of a busy street or whatever. Probably 30% of the time do I use the actual audio in camera. I'm usually building the audio in post, so don't be afraid to get rid of the crappy audio and put some better audio in there. Yeah.
Silence.
Good whoosh noises, bringing us from clip to clip.
Memories. It's all what we can take with us after leaving. Waking up to unfamiliar words and unfamiliar life.
Now, Walter, I saw in the comments when you initially posted this that some people were saying that the voiceover was distracting because you're not a native English speaker, and so it was a little bit hard to understand with your German accent. I'm impartial on this. I can see both sides of it. I think it does add some kind of flavor that you have an accent, but I can also see how some people might not be able to understand it very well, and so it might take away from what you're saying. But I do like in general the idea of putting in a voiceover and bringing in the emotion of the video by adding a script on top. Maybe it's a matter of pronunciation on words to help people understand better. Maybe don't be afraid to not be the one to do it yourself. When I worked with Devin Graham for years, he would try and voice over his own videos and make them very inspirational, and he doesn't really have a deep booming inspirational trailer voice. He doesn't really have one of those voices for it, and he might want to just hire somebody else who does have that voice to fit the type of video he's doing. So don't be afraid. You can go to, I think it's voices123voice or something .com. You can hire people for $100 to voice over a script that you write, and that way you don't have to rely on just yourself trying to speak somebody else's language.
Taste of a new culture. See the way they see the world.
What might have been cool is if you could find a voice actor that was from Myanmar, so it had a little bit of accent from the place that you were filming. That'd be cool.
Between us proves we are more connected.
Like the shot of you in there, making the human connection.
The things we see, the people we meet, it's fascinating. In Myanmar, all the pressure is forgotten. Living the present moment. It's a place of joy, contrasts, adventure.
Still, I'm hearing a lot of in-camera audio on a lot of these. Some of it works and some of it doesn't. And so I can hear some background noises in some of these clips where I'm thinking, man, that was kind of distracting. It takes away from the music, especially if it's as loud or louder than the music and it's not really audio that you want to hear, just like background fuzz. Don't be afraid to turn down or turn off audio and replace it with different audio if it doesn't add to.
Do they have access to like sound effect? You want your sound effect libraries?
Not my sound effect library. A lot of what I have is purchased, but you guys in the course I gave you the link to go to the Adobe site to get all the sound effects for free. So if you haven't, go download those, get familiar with them, start finding your favorites and utilize those.
Think about where you were last year.
Super pretty shot there, love that one.
That used to worry you so much, that no longer consumes your mind and time. We walked on completely empty beaches. experience their culture, their habits, and their untouched world. It's a place that is breathtaking, unforgettable, and creates memories that are priceless.
Pretty shot. Now, obviously, there's not a lot you can do about a lot of these locations, but when possible, I always try and go at a time or wait for a lull in a lot of foot traffic. Even I've been in places where there are this many people, but if you wait for a half hour to 40 minutes, you'll usually find a lull where there's nobody or a lot less people there, and that makes these destinations look more enticing and a little bit less distracting, I guess. When you're looking at these beautiful things, you're not distracted by the 100 people you see, but rather you're focusing on what you're supposed to be focusing on. So I'll talk about this in an upcoming video, but when you're shooting travel videos, be patient. You might have to wait 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes for a little lull of people so you can open up and have a cleaner shot. Sometimes you'll wait 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and nothing's happening. So just get the best shot you can and move on. Now I like that you're matching the visuals to the beat. However, there's a lot of these shots that looked like awesome shots that I wanted to watch longer that were too quick for me to actually see what they were.
Yeah, I've seen either just doubling the time of that clip, or I mean, not even being afraid to take part of the video and not have it be perfectly on beat, but
Right.
just go by what part of that shot should be shown.
You could double the length of these shots, have it on every other beat, or just have one long clip on that whole Not that there's anything wrong with doing the way you did it, but just personal preference. Some of those shots look really cool, and I would have liked to have seen them longer.
It felt like a destination full of freedom, an adventurous place that has just been discovered.
When you have someone like your wife on camera who's not a professional actor, you got to coach them a little bit. She does a great job overall for a non-actor, but there are times, like right now, I think she looks at the camera twice.
Full of freedom, an adventurous place.
Right there, she kind of shifts, and then right there again at the camera. So either have her looking at the camera the whole time, or not at all. But if you have her looking around and then glancing at the camera every once in a while, redo the take. You don't want, going back to other Feedback Fridays, either have them staring into the camera, piercing your soul, or don't have them looking at the camera at all. I think that was purposeful audio. So with the horse audio, I'd say you could go without. Not everything has to be sound design, especially if it's something as small as a horse. You probably wouldn't actually be able to hear him eating the grass from that far away where the camera's at. If it was a close-up, then yeah, let's put it in a sound effect. But with how far away it is, you can get away without sound designing that. Or like Tanner said, just turn down the volume of that grass eating, because right now it sounds like just a muffled thing in the microphone. I wasn't even sure what it was sound designing there. So looking at this 1DX shot, very vibrant, very contrasty, and then we go to a drone shot that is completely flat. If you look at this in Lumetri scopes, you'll see all this information in the very center, and then if you look at this one in Lumetri scopes, you'll see all the information spread out throughout the whole graph. So you want to try and match the contrast, the colors as much as you can throughout these edits, or else it doesn't feel very cohesive.
Is that more camera, like the type of gear you have, or the? I mean, could you go take that shot and pull the colors out
in post? Yeah, you could. He probably shot this flat in the drone, but the 1DX, he's shooting a standard profile, and so it's shooting out of camera the way he wants it, but then you have the drone shooting flat so he can color grade in post, but it doesn't look like it was actually color graded. So I would take this. So look how all the information is just hanging out in the middle here. Nothing very highlighted, nothing in the shadows, just everything's flat right there in the middle. All right, so with this shot, you see we have some of your highlights touching here. That's right there. So we have those highlights up there. We have this dome in the 80s. We have these in the 60s, 70s, and then we have a bunch of information down here in the 0, the crushed blacks. But this guy, all we have is the sun, which should be blown out right there. But everything else is pretty much between 60 and 10. So we don't have a lot of information in the highlights or in the shadows. So what I would do with this is I'd get my curve. I'd say, okay, let's bring this whole thing down a little bit. Let's bring up this guy to create some contrast. Maybe bring down the sun a little bit over here. So play around with your curve, and already this looks like it's matching a lot better to that guy.
I'm always scared to color correct. That's something that I definitely go back and watch Parker's tutorials on color correcting and don't overlook it, because I've been known to just be like, well, I mean, it looks fine. It's no one will notice, but I mean, it can look so much better and take that freedom.
And the contrast, or excuse me, the saturation too. This guy's not nearly as saturated, so you might want to
pretty purple too. Bring
in some of the saturation, and then yeah, color balance. Look how our reds are dominant here. Well, let's bring some of those reds down. Ah, that's a little better. See how we're just making those more even with each other? So we just brought down those reds, and it just makes it look like the color balance is a lot better. Maybe a little contrast here. Maybe keep some of those shadows up, contrast shadows. So now you see that spread out a lot more over that image, so it's a lot less flat. Now guys, this is just personal preference. Some people like flatter images, but if you have some images that aren't flat and others that are, I'd at least match them, whatever preference you decide. Here's the before and after on that. So you go from super flat to what's looking a lot more like your 1DX images there. So take the time, guys, to go through and match your shots the best you can. That's why I recommend a lot of people shoot straight out of camera, standard profiles, because a lot of people have a hard time seeing the difference between those drone shots. And in another video, we'll talk about how to get those standard profile looks in the drone cameras.
Then we leave, full of memories, joy, happy and thankful. Myanmar is a country unlike anything you have seen before. It felt like a destination full of freedom, an adventurous place that has just been discovered.
Awesome job, Walter. Again, I personally liked the voiceover. I could see how people would find it distracting, but I think you can get away with it. I would just focus on pronunciation and make sure that people are being able to understand that. But overall,
I love the emotion of the video. I liked how, I don't know, yeah, I like the addition of the voiceover. I feel like it added the emotion, and that's what, I mean, that's why anybody watches a video, is because it gives them some emotion. And I think you did a good job throughout the whole thing.
Yep, and I like your wife throughout. Thought she did a good job. Like I said, there's a few parts where she gives some awkward looks here and there, but that's expected.
Don't we all?
Just redo them. Just give yourself some options. Just be on the lookout for. That's the biggest thing I want to tell you guys, is train yourself to look for that kind of stuff. I was very unable to see details when I first started, and as you do more and more, you start to notice more and more details that will look better or worse in the final edit. So just be aware of those. And then probably the biggest thing from the edit, man, was just here and there a few sound design flaws, using in-camera audio, and then trying to match that the drone shots with your 1DX shots can be tricky. So either spend some time in post or shoot that out of camera in the drone similarly to your 1DX. But that's it, guys. Great job, Walter. Awesome travel vid in Myanmar. If you guys have any further questions for me or for Tanner or for our lovely Walter Weber, please let us know.